Hello and welcome to G Fun Facts Online, the show that dives deep into the most fascinating corners of our universe. Today, I want you to picture a world completely devoid of sunlight, a realm of eternal darkness, where the weight of the ocean above creates pressures so immense they could crush a submarine like a tin can. The water temperature swings wildly from near freezing to over 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. And to top it all off, the water itself is a toxic soup of chemicals gushing from the planet's core. Sounds like a vision of hell, right? A place where life would be utterly impossible. Well, what if I told you that these very places are not barren wastelands, but are in fact vibrant, thriving oases, packed with some of the strangest creatures on Earth? These are deep-sea geothermal vents, and they didn't just introduce us to new species. They fundamentally rewrote the rules of biology and may even hold the secret to how all life on our planet began. So take a deep breath and let's dive down into the abyss. The story begins, as many great scientific revolutions do, with a complete surprise. It's 1977. A team of scientists are in a submersible named Alvin, exploring a deep-sea volcanic ridge near the Galapagos Islands. At these depths, thousands of meters below the surface, they expected to find, well, not much. The deep ocean floor was considered a cold, dark, and sparsely populated desert. But then, their instruments detected a strange temperature spike. And as they navigated closer, their sub's lights illuminated a scene that defied all explanation. It wasn't a barren wasteland. Instead, they saw geysers of shimmering, hot water gushing from cracks in the seafloor. And clustered around these geysers was a dense community of life. Towering, ghostly white tubes with brilliant red plumes swaying in the current. Fields of giant clams and mussels. Swarms of pale, blind crabs. None of these animals had ever been seen before. The discovery was absolutely groundbreaking. Think about it. Every ecosystem we knew of, from the rainforests to the reefs, was powered by one thing: the sun. Photosynthesis was the foundation of all life. Plants and algae used sunlight to create food, and then other animals ate them. But here, in total darkness, was a thriving ecosystem. There was no sunlight, so what on earth was powering it? This discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. It was like discovering a parallel branch of life that had been hiding in our planet's darkest corners all along. Just 2 years later, in 1979, another expedition to the East Pacific Rise made an even more dramatic discovery. They found towering, chimney-like structures, some several stories high, belching what looked like thick black smoke. They nicknamed them Black Smokers. These weren't just gentle seeps of warm water. They were powerful, focused jets of superheated fluid. Since those first incredible finds, we've located hundreds of these vent sites in every ocean on the globe, from the frigid waters of the Arctic to the warm currents of the Pacific, each one a unique biological island in the vast deep-sea desert. So how do you create one of these underwater geysers? It all starts with the very architecture of our planet. Hydrothermal vents typically form along mid-ocean ridges. These are massive underwater mountain ranges where tectonic plates are slowly pulling apart. As the plates separate, cracks and fissures open up in the Earth's crust. Cold seawater, which at these depths is only a few degrees above freezing, seeps down into these cracks, sometimes for kilometers. As the water gets deeper, it gets closer to the magma chambers that lie beneath the crust, the molten heart of our planet's volcanic systems. This is where things get really extreme. The water is heated by the magma to astonishing temperatures, often exceeding 400 degrees Celsius or 752 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, you might be wondering, why doesn't it just boil? The answer is pressure. The sheer weight of the thousands of meters of water overhead creates pressures almost 300 times greater than what we experience at sea level. This immense pressure keeps the water in a liquid state, even when it's hot enough to melt lead. This superheated water isn't just hot, it's also chemically transformed. As it circulates, it reacts with the surrounding volcanic rock, stripping it of minerals and dissolved gases. It becomes an acidic, metal-rich, and oxygen-poor fluid. Now buoyant because of its high temperature, this chemical soup begins to rise, shooting back up through the fissures in the crust and erupting into the cold ocean above. This is the birth of a hydrothermal vent. And when this scorching, mineral-laden vent fluid collides with the near-freezing, oxygen-rich seawater of the deep ocean, a dramatic chemical reaction takes place. The dissolved minerals can no longer stay in solution, so they precipitate out, forming a cloud of fine particles. This is the smoke we see. Depending on the minerals involved, we get different kinds of smokers. The famous black smokers are the hottest. Their dark billowing plumes are rich in iron and sulfur compounds, which form tiny black mineral grains. Then there are white smokers. These vents are typically cooler and emit lighter-hued minerals containing elements like barium, calcium, and silicon, creating a plume that looks more like white smoke. These mineral particles don't just drift away. They build up around the vent opening, creating the incredible chimney structures. And these chimneys can grow astonishingly fast. Geologists have recorded growth rates of up to 30 centimeters, or about a foot, per day. One of the most legendary chimneys ever discovered was nicknamed Godzilla. Found on the Juan de Fuca Ridge, off the coast of Washington State, it grew to the height of a 15-story building before it eventually collapsed. Now, we come to the most remarkable part of this story: the life. In the total absence of sunlight, photosynthesis is impossible. So what is the engine of these ecosystems? The answer is a process called chemosynthesis. It's one of the most incredible forms of adaptation on the planet. Instead of using energy from light, the primary producers here are ancient microorganisms, bacteria and archaea, that harness chemical energy. They take the compounds dissolved in the vent fluid, particularly hydrogen sulfide, the chemical that gives rotten eggs their smell and is highly toxic to most known life, and they use it as fuel. They oxidize these chemicals to generate energy, which they then use to convert carbon dioxide into organic matter. In essence, they are creating food from toxic chemicals in total darkness. These chemosynthetic microbes are the foundation, the plants of the entire vent food web. They form thick mats on the rocks around the vents. They float in the water, and as we'll see, they live inside other animals. Their productivity is so immense that the density of life at these vents is 10,000 to 100,000 times greater than on the surrounding deep sea floor. It is a true oasis, an explosion of life in what should be a desolate void. And the creatures that have evolved to live here are like something out of a science fiction movie. Since their discovery, over 300 new species have been identified, and a staggering 95% of them are endemic, meaning they are found nowhere else on Earth. They've all developed unique adaptations to survive the crushing pressure, the extreme temperature gradients, and the toxic chemistry. Let's meet some of these bizarre and beautiful inhabitants. Perhaps the most iconic is the giant tube worm, Riftia pecaptilla. These things are striking. They live in tough, white chitinous tubes that can be up to several feet long, and from the top emerges a bright red feathery plume. The strangest thing about them? They have no mouth, no gut, and no anus. They cannot eat. So how do they survive? The answer lies inside their bodies, in a specialized organ called a trophosome. This organ is packed with symbiotic chemosynthetic bacteria. The tube worm's red plume acts like an external lung, absorbing hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, and oxygen from the vent water. Its specialized blood then transports these chemicals to the bacteria living safely inside. The bacteria then do their chemosynthetic magic, producing sugars and other nutrients that feed both themselves and their host worm. The worm is essentially a living apartment complex and delivery service for its microbial tenants. Then you have the vent mussels and giant clams. Like the tube worms, they also rely on symbiotic bacteria, which they house in their gills. They filter the water, feeding their internal partners the chemicals they need to produce food. Some species are even clever enough to host multiple types of symbionts, allowing them to switch their energy source depending on which chemicals are most abundant in their local vent. It's like having a personal chef that can cook with whatever ingredients are available. And it gets weirder. Meet the Yeti crab. First discovered in 2005, this ghostly white crab is famous for its hairy claws, but that's not fur. Those hairs, or setae, are covered in colonies of bacteria. The crab is thought to be a farmer. It waves its claws back and forth in the mineral-rich vent fluids, cultivating its own food source. When it's hungry, it uses comb-like mouthparts to scrape the bacteria off its arms and eat them. It literally carries its garden around with it. One of the most incredible examples of adaptation has to be the scaly-foot gastropod, a type of sea snail found only at vents in the Indian Ocean. This creature has evolved a suit of armor. Its shell is made of the usual calcium carbonate, but it's coated in a layer of iron sulfides, the same material that makes up the black smoker chimneys. Even more remarkably, its fleshy foot, the part it uses to move, is covered in hard, mineralized scales also made of iron. It is the only known animal to use iron sulfide in its skeleton, effectively making it a knight in shining, metallic armor. The existence of these self-sufficient, complex ecosystems, thriving on the raw chemical energy of the planet itself, has led some scientists to a profound hypothesis. Perhaps life on Earth didn't begin in a warm little pond on the surface, as Darwin famously suggested, but right here in the dark depths of the ocean. Think about it. The surface of the early Earth was an incredibly hostile place. There was no protective ozone layer, so it was bombarded by intense ultraviolet radiation. The planet was also constantly pummeled by meteorite impacts. Deep-sea vents, however, would have been a protected, sheltered environment. They provided a continuous source of chemical energy and all the necessary raw ingredients for life: hydrogen, carbon dioxide, sulfur, and metals, all mixed together in a warm, watery reactor. The mineral surfaces of the vent chimneys could have even acted as catalysts, helping to organize the first organic molecules into more complex structures. This theory is supported by the fact that the most primitive known organisms on Earth, the heat-loving microbes from the domain Archaea, are found in abundance at these vents. They represent one of the oldest branches on the tree of life, and their home turf might just be the cradle where it all began. The exploration of these deep-sea vents is far from over. Every expedition seems to reveal something new and unexpected. In a remarkable discovery in 2023, scientists exploring vents on the East Pacific Rise found something they never knew existed. They realized that many of the vent animals were disappearing into cracks in the volcanic rock. Using a robotic arm, they were able to turn over a piece of the crust and found a vast network of volcanic cavities underneath the seafloor, teeming with worms, snails, and chemosynthetic bacteria, all living in warm, 25°C water. This revealed an entirely new subsurface ecosystem, suggesting that the vent habitat is much larger than we ever imagined, existing both above and below the seafloor. We've literally only been scratching the surface. And the implications of these discoveries stretch far beyond our own planet. The search for life elsewhere in the solar system, a field called astrobiology, has been completely energized by the study of hydrothermal vents. Why? Because we now know that life doesn't need sunlight. It just needs liquid water, a source of energy, and the right chemical ingredients. And there are places in our solar system that might have all three. Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus are both covered in a thick shell of ice, but we have strong evidence that they hide vast, liquid water oceans beneath. And due to gravitational interactions with their giant parent planets, Their cores are likely geologically active, meaning they could have hydrothermal vents on their ocean floors, spewing out chemical energy just like the ones on Earth. These vents on our own planet are our best analog, our best model for what extraterrestrial life might look like. The search for life on Europa and Enceladus is, in many ways, a search for deep-sea vents on another world. From a stunning discovery in 1977 that shattered our understanding of biology, to a bizarre menagerie of iron-shelled snails and farming crabs, deep-sea vents are a powerful reminder of the incredible resilience and adaptability of life. They are true oases in the deep, offering a glimpse into a world powered not by the distant light of the sun, but by the very heat and chemistry of our planet's interior. As we continue to explore these dark, mysterious corners of our own world, who knows what other wonders, what other rules of life we are yet to discover. Thanks for tuning in to G Fun Facts Online. Join us next time as we explore another amazing corner of our universe.